Aha, now it's working. Hello, good morning. Hope you all slept well. Hello to those of you watching the recording. Just gonna light my sage here. Hello, hello. Good morning. How's it going? Hi, Polly's. Good morning. Hi, Ariana. Hi, Mariah. Hi, Lindsay. Hi, Margarita. Hi, Sophie. How is everyone? Good morning, Lori. You're up early. Hi, Lynette. Nice to see you, Lynelle. Hi, Marissa. Hi, Wade. Hi, Lori. Daniel Jackson's in the house. How you doing, bud? Hi, Lynn. Hi, Elaine. Trying to get my sage to work. There we go. Now it's burning. I trust you all slept well. Hi, Charisse. Hi, Ray. Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Victoria. Hi, Margaret. Hi, Amanda. How is everybody today? Morning, Helen. Adriana's here. Good morning, my love. Nice to see you. What have you guys been up to? Sorry I'm late. I'm very sluggish. Time doesn't exist. Technically, I'm never late. Margarita says, what's going on with this energy? It's been tough. No kidding. Let me switch my mic over. No, it has been. It's been completely with the energies the last, 2 weeks or so? That 8-8 portal really stirred things up a lot. Ariana says, I love the most recent Lost Soul Rescue. Thank you for helping all those souls. Thank you for saying so, Ariana. It was an intense one. It was a doozy. Wade says, my hours-long deja vu symptoms are back. I'm told it's due to the Schumann worldwide, the energy spikes and changes. It very well could be, Wade. There's been a lot of energetic changes and shifts and all kinds of interesting things the last few weeks. We had a very big timeline jump almost a week ago now. It happened right around the 8-8 portal, and it was an intense jump because I woke up feeling very out of it. There's a word in Afrikaans, demokar. I've been demokar for about a week. Basically, it just means you just feel out of sorts. And I have honestly been feeling out of sorts ever since that 8-8 portal. I don't know about you guys, but that was I don't know what it is, but I've been feeling very ungrounded and very kind of lightheaded, and I have been grounding myself, and as you can see, I've been smudging. I smudge a lot. I smudge 3 times a day. With my house anyway, you need to. So there's been a lot of weirdness in association with that timeline shift. Anybody else been feeling it? Michelle says she felt it. Jordan says, I'm feeling pretty sad today. Took my husband to the airport yesterday morning. He's in Idaho and Oregon for his new job until September 7th. So this is going to be a huge adjustment. Oh, I'm sending you big hugs, Jordan. I know it's not easy, especially when you've got kids as well. Sending your husband lots of love and protection, and you as well. Just remember that there's a silver lining in everything. So try and find the silver lining in every situation. Cherie says, are the timeline jumps those black strips on the Schumann? It could be. It definitely could be, but I don't know if there's a way that humans have even begun to quantify these things. There's been all kinds of strange stuff happening. And I don't know about you guys, but the energies for the last couple weeks have been intense. And it's not just the energies, because they've been messing with all kinds of things. The government's been doing all kinds of stuff. In fact, there was a weird weather anomaly. I'm see if I could find that post for you guys really quick. But there was a very strange weather anomaly that happened as well. See if I can find it. There it is. So they're wondering about this. This was August 17th. So what was that yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. Whereabouts is this? I'm trying to figure out where this location was. People are calling it HARP, but there was a, oh, it was in Serbia. Okay. So this popped up on their radar. That is rain. That's rain in a perfect fucking circle in Serbia. That doesn't look right, does it? To see, look, there's the Hungary border up there. That is rain that they're claiming was in the area in a perfect circle like that. And they're claiming it's just a normal weather anomaly. Yes, it's my labradorite case. You like that? It's not real labradorite. Thank you, Kara. That's exactly. See, whoever said CERN, that was my first guess as well. Because they're going to keep fucking with the weather, like big time. Look at that. That's rain. That's what they're claiming is rain. Like, what? What else would do that thing in a circle? Yeah, exactly. And then there's also, I'm sure they have, that's Eastern Europe. I'm sure they have a CERN there somewhere. Or possibly even just the CERN that's in Switzerland could be doing that. Because that's where their biggest and most notorious CERN, because there's a lot of them. There's at least 5. In fact, I'm pretty sure Russia has one as well. We know of at least 2 in America. There's one in Alaska, and there's one in Texas. So there is a hurricane out there. There's all kinds of interesting weather right now. Anybody see the video of what they found in Arizona? The backpacks and the weird bones they found. There's this couple that live north of, I forget what town it's in. Just as I was about to say it, it disappeared. Maybe that's why. They're like, nope, don't say it. So in Arizona, there is a town where this couple was going for a walk. They live in this one like very remote area outside of this town. And as they were going for their nightly walk, they were drawn to this area that was really strange. So they go looking and they started finding bones, like human remains. Then they found backpacks, like children's backpacks, and really weird stuff going on. And my first, and all the comments were like, call the feds. And I'm like, the feds are probably the ones that put them out there in the first place. That's the last person I would be calling, is the fucking feds. Like, Wade's in Arizona. Wade, if you hear anything, will you keep me updated? Because I want to know more about what's going on there. Very, very strange stuff. But it's probably, I hate to say it, it's probably people coming across the border that have been rid of. Trafficking in the States is, I mean, America is known for trafficking. That's just, we get away with it like crazy because we consider ourselves to be this impressive, presence in the world. But in reality, there's so much dirty shit that happens here. So who knows? But there's all kinds of interesting stuff popping up in the collective right now, and people are certainly raising their eyebrows for good reason. Wade says they are nesting in the Grand Canyon. There's all kinds of stuff happening in the Grand Canyon. In fact, if you guys have ever seen one of my favorite channels on YouTube is called Mr. Mythos. I talk about Mr. Mythos all the time. Mr. Mythos puts up videos about inner Earth, and one of his discussions is about the Grand Canyon, and it was phenomenal. The interesting stuff that happens there. There's all kinds of underground, I don't want to call them temples because it's more, I mean, that whole area is like Swiss cheese. But exactly as Leanne just said, Leanne said the truth is coming to the surface for everybody to see. Exactly. So there's going to be all kinds of interesting things that are rising to the surface. Margaret says the agencies claiming to help kids are the ones doing the trafficking. Oh, we've known that for so long. Child Protective Services, that's exactly what it's for. And I'm one of the people one of my things on my list of things that I would love to do someday is to be able to foster children. Like I've always had a love for kids. Like I would, you know what I mean? Like I would love to open up my home to children, but especially the fact that I see how many of them get put into the system and how many of them are abused in the system makes me want to open like an orphanage even so there'd be a safe space for more of them, considering that most of them are, yeah, exactly designed to traffic or to control. In fact, many of the children that are, placed into the system end up more abused once they've been put into the system. So my father worked for somewhere called Elmcrest Children's Center for many, many years, and he was basically one of those people. That's what he did. He helped bring children into a safe space. But as with everything, anytime you try and do something really beautiful for children, somebody comes along and sabotages it. And they ended up turning Elmcrest into a children's holding facility rather than a helping, or a place for punishment for inner city kids rather than a place that they can go and get a meal and a place to sleep where they'd be safe. So there's all kinds of crazy stuff happening in the collective right now. We got to make sure that we are there for each other, that you're asking for help. Good morning, Michael. Nice to see you. Make sure that you're asking for help, especially because if you don't ask, you don't get. And if you're like me, who tries to be fiercely independent, and one of the last things you do is ask for help, you need to work on that. Because unfortunately, you're going to burn yourself out if you don't ask for help. We have to start working on these things collectively together. Makes it a lot easier for us to tackle these situations and problems that we all have to face as a collective. So I'm just reading through the comments. We have seen some wonderful things happening, though, in regards to clearings. As I mentioned a few days ago, we were helping this little girl who is being harassed by Lizzies. She's a Starseed veteran. And as I think the last time I told you guys, every time we checked her, there were more Lizzies. Like we would clear them and then they would come back. We would clear the reptilians and then they come back again. And I wouldn't say come back because they can't. The same ones can't come back. We send them to source. They can't come back. They aren't able to harass anybody after we've dealt with them. But they will. They'll call in reinforcements and there would just be more and more of them. So we just remain consistent. And we put one of our golden tags on her to basically be like, she's one of ours. You mess with her, you're going to be in trouble. Like basically saying, like, if you touch this little girl, you're going to source, like, just to let you know. So all of a sudden, the reptilians stopped. We stopped seeing Lizzies, and we haven't found a Lizzie on her in about 3 days now. It looks like they got the message. How nice. However, they have been still sending demonics. So unfortunately, when you've still pissed them off to that degree, they can still send troops your way. They can still send their goons to mess with you. But we've already seen progress in that regard. And it really makes me happy to see that I'm more stubborn than the reptilians are. So the golden tag is working. It is. In fact, her vibration seems to be going up quite rapidly. So kind of just wanted to say, pat myself on the back, pat my team on the back, say thanks to the guides, because they really are. They're doing a phenomenal job. In fact, there was another child that somebody brought to my attention. I had an emergency case a few days ago where there's this child, I would say child, he's a teenager, who hasn't been able to sleep. Just hasn't been able to sleep. Sleep has been denied for a very long time. And he's wondering, the parents are wondering what's going on because even sleeping tablets aren't working. In fact, the sleeping tablets just made him groggy and less lucid, it didn't actually knock him out like they were supposed to. So they brought him into a hospital situation to try and help and see if they can help him go to sleep there. And we looked into the situation and we found tons of reptilians on this kid, like tons. This kid was riddled with them. riddled with implants, riddled with all kinds of stuff. In fact, they were literally experimenting on him, which is pretty shocking and depressing, I must say. To know that your child has been messed with by these beings is it's infuriating, to say the least. So we looked into this child, and this poor kid, like they were even saying, like they might even have to like take things up a notch, to be able to get him to sleep. So we tune in and we find all of that shit attached to him and all those beasties attached. So we clear everything. And I checked him the next day, and I sent his mom a message, and I said, I'm just letting you know he looks better today in vibration. Like he just looks better. Like we check him, and he doesn't have all the beasties on him. In fact, we even brought in a new soul guide. And this is an angelic soul guide, one of Carolyn's friends. So we brought in this new guide, and I went to check him again last night, and the guide was still there. He was sovereign, and there was still an angelic standing next to him. And I was like, yay! So even though he was basically brought into a place where it's very, very dark, because that's what they do. Whenever you brought into some kind of a mental health ward, that's where, it's one of the worst places for you because there are entities all over the place. So get this, right? I spoke to his mom the next morning. You know what his mom told me? She goes, he slept over 8 hours. Slept over 8 hours right after the clearing. And then as I read the email out loud, like I got goosebumps head to toe, and so did Carolyn. Carolyn and I were like, yes. So exciting. So yeah, can you imagine going like that long without being able to sleep? I got him. I'm banning him. I already got the ban hammer out. It's spinning. Facebook is very slow to ban people right now. There we go. I got him. It's being very weird. There we go. Done. Cleared. Cleared. So anyway, isn't that amazing though to hear about that message? It's one thing. I asked the guides, I was like, why are they denying this teenager sleep? Like of all the things to do to somebody, to deny them sleep for weeks on end. And they said, well, actually, they were trying to drive him insane through sleep deprivation. I was like, are you kidding me? They can do that? They're like, of course, anybody that goes a long time without sleeping, they start to lose their sense of awareness, and they get completely messed up in their heads if they don't sleep well. People don't sleep. We get really messed up, which really makes you wonder why we need to return to the astral. I don't think it's just about resting our bodies. There's a lot of beings that don't have to sleep. There's even Pleiadians. They don't sleep. They don't have to. I wonder if they're like plants. They just photosynthesize light or something. It must be nice to not have to sleep. If you think about it, you spend a third of your life asleep. So if you have problems with sleeping, that's a lot of healing that you're not going to be able to get. So very, very important for you to kind of make sure that you are able to get the rest you deserve. And if something is messing with that rest, which is why, succubus and all these other entities, that's exactly what they do. Your most vulnerable state is when you are sleeping, because your subconscious is controlling everything. Your consciousness is resting while your vessel is also resting. So there are opportunities for you to kind of astral travel, even though you're not aware that you're leaving your body every night. Victoria said, I went through the exact same thing after having my first child. I went to the ER. I was so desperate. I had a lot of postpartum depression, and I found out that those were all entity attachments. Because if you think about it, right, you're going into a hospital. It's one of the lowest vibrational places that are riddled with entities. And you're going in there to experience fear and pain and all kinds of mixed emotions. So your vibration goes down because you're in pain and fear, and you're open, you're susceptible. Even if you wouldn't normally be susceptible because your vibration is normally high, when you're in that situation, your vibration goes down due to the fear and the pain. So what happens? You're more susceptible to entities. You're an easy target in a place like that. And what happens when they pick on somebody who's just had a child? They start putting horrific thoughts in your head. Absolutely horrific. That's exactly what happened to me. In fact, one of the worst thoughts that has ever popped into my head happened within an hour of giving birth. I've told you guys about this before. I'll say it again. I was in my bed. I was resting. I had my child with me. I had Aiden was sleeping in my arms. And I was just sitting there thinking of how beautiful he was and how perfect and how proud I was of him and myself. And then all of a sudden, I had this random thought pop into my head to throw him out the window. And I was so upset, I started sobbing. I started literally sobbing in my bed, crying. I put him down and I was shaking. I was so afraid of my own thoughts. And I beat myself up for years over that thought, thinking, oh my God, what kind of horrible person has thoughts like that? I didn't know that we are telepathic beings and that a lot of our thoughts come from outside ourselves. And it was one of the most horrific moments of my entire life because I immediately blamed myself. I didn't know about entities. I didn't know I was in a place with all those horrific things happen. So just random thoughts just pop into your head. And I'm like, and I traumatized myself with those thoughts. And I beat myself up for so long. And then when I found out about entities, and I got goosebumps all over as I say this, I got chills even on my legs right now as I say this. But when I was having those thoughts and beating myself up for it, I had no idea that there is a way that entities could put those thoughts in your head. So I spent years wondering where those horrific thoughts came from, only to now know that that was not me. Like, I know for a fact that wasn't me. When did I finally realize those were not your thoughts? 2 years ago, when I found out about all this, when I found out about dark entities. I mean, I knew that succubi existed. I knew that certain beings existed. I thought they only messed with people who were I thought they messed with bad people. Like, I've used it as an example as to why bad people existed, but I've always considered myself to be a good person. So why was a good person have bad thoughts? You know what I mean? Like, that's just the logic I had in my head for some reason back then. So anytime something bad would pop into my head, I would beat myself up over it and thinking, oh my God, like, what kind of person am I? And to be honest, like, people who are like truly dealing with mental health psychosis to that degree, they don't ask themselves those sort of questions. That is a very introspective question that a lot of people don't even ask when your mind has already been pushed to the brink of sanity, if you know what I mean. So this is one of the reasons why, even though for many years I felt shame over that, why I'm so able to talk about it now is I want people to know. People need to know, because we blame ourselves. I blamed myself for years, beating myself up over shit that wasn't even me. It was some asshole fucking entity in my room harassing me. I was actually dealing with a psychic attack. And I didn't know this. And that's what the whole postpartum depression was. All that depression that I had for a long time after giving birth, that was all entities. I was dealing with attachments. So I don't know why I got to that point. I don't even know how I got cleared, to be honest, because I feel like I had periods where I was okay after that, where all of that negativity and all of those intrusive thoughts went away. So I do believe that once you get yourself up to a certain vibration and you can heal yourself, you can get rid of those attachments. I don't always believe that you need to have some sort of a soul guide that'll come in and rescue you. This is why you have people that will go to the like pull themselves out of the gutter, where they're dealing with addiction, they're dealing with all kinds of, trauma from psychological abuse or physical abuse. People that have gone into so deep into addiction because of their trauma that they end up bringing all these entity attachments into their life that makes things even worse. But then all of a sudden they'll find Jesus. They'll go to church or something and be like, look, I'm a changed man. All of those horrible thoughts went away. All of those dreadful, what is it? When you can't say no to your own thoughts. I'm trying to find there's a word for it. where you basically are able to control your own thoughts and say no to yourself and be like, you know what? No, I don't want to go to the bar today. And then your thoughts will be like, come on, you know you want to keep drinking. And it's like, no, I don't want to keep drinking. You're right. I want to stay home and be with my family. I don't want to go and get drunk. When you start fighting against those thoughts and start pushing them back and saying, no, I can make better decisions. I don't have to say yes just because it's what my brain says. Self-control. Thank you, Jessica. But those intrusive thoughts, once you start recognizing them and starting to recognize when it's not you, that's one of the most powerful changes that you can make in your realizations. Because then you start realizing it's not me and I have to start setting a boundary. Carolyn says, I didn't find Jesus. He came and found me. Well, this is why Jesus gets so much credit, because people go to church, they get baptized, or they get some kind of healing from the Holy Spirit. And the next thing you know, they don't have the intrusive thoughts. They don't have the urges anymore. And they can say no to those urges. And they think, oh my God, Jesus saved me. Who knows who saved you? You probably weren't even asking for help in the right situation. Because you asked for help in a place where somebody was able to help you, they got rid of all the entity attachments. And now all of a sudden the intrusive thoughts and all of those, urges are gone. And you're thinking, oh my God, I don't have the urge to drink anymore. Oh my God, I don't have the urge to have sex every single day now. Oh my God, I don't have the urge to do drugs anymore. All of those urges, especially the really negative ones like the drugs and the alcohol and the porn and the cheating and all the other shit that are, temptations. We all know those are temptations. Once you start to push back against temptation and you say, okay, well, I guess I don't need these things anymore. I guess my life is better without them. And you start asking for help, actively praying, asking for help. Prayer is consent. You're giving spirit consent to help you. That is why prayer is so powerful, because you're not just giving consent, you're asking for it. You're asking for help. And your guides are like, oh, I hear that. What? But you know what's interesting? I did a clearing on somebody last night who is in prison. This gentleman has been in prison for quite a long time, and his life has been pretty much awful from the start. So what do you think we found when we checked this man who's in prison? Just curious. What do you guys think? If you would normally think of somebody who's sitting in prison, what would you normally expect to find on them? Well, obviously entities, right? He was riddled with Lizzies. We all know that, because Lizzie, it's a fucking nest in there. Every single prison in the world is a nest for Lizzies, unfortunately. But I'm not even talking about the entity attachments. I'm just curious. What do you guys think I found on him? Bingo, Lindsay. Dark contracts. That's a big part of it. Yep. Curses. Spells. He had 5 spells on him. But not only that, he had 3 vows. 3 vows. A vow of suffering, a vow of revenge, and a vow, I can't remember the third vow. A vow of poverty. There were grays as well. Yep. Exactly, Jessica. You know what was interesting? And this is why I'm even bringing this up. Jessica nailed it. They cut him off from his guides and cloaked him. Yep. They did exactly that. He had no spirit team with him. None. 0. And we always say, your spirit team is always there to protect and defend you. They are, as long as they don't get pushed out. Oh, he had tons and tons of thought forms. But get this, right? His spirit team was gone. Gone. He didn't have even one soul guide with him. And I asked why. I was like, are you kidding me? There's not even one soul guide with him? And they said, no, they've been pushed out for decades. For decades. He didn't even have one soul guide for more than 20 years of his life. And I was like, why? Why would you not have a soul guide? And they said they got pushed out. They got pushed away. They got completely pushed away. And they had no access to him whatsoever. And they did. The entities basically cloaked him and pushed him away. They have been running his life since he was a teenager. And the thoughts that they were putting in his head, the thought forms that they were putting in his head were, unworthy, telling him that he was worthless, that he was a nobody, that he would be better off dead. These are the kind of thoughts that they were circulating in this guy's mind ever since he was a teenager. And he had no soul guides because they were pushed away. I mean, if you're pushed away, like, it's like saying, like, if one of your best friends as a teenager says, no, you got to leave, goodbye, and they bring in all of these new friends and tell you to go away and don't ever come back, you don't come back. You just disappeared. So that's basically what happened. He brought in all of these negative guides. They pushed out his original guides, and his original guides gave up. They left. It's been more than 20 years since he was even in contact with his original guides. And if you think of how much abuse that poor young man has been through ever since he's been, I mean, so I looked into it. Of course he was, Sophie. Yep. But I hate to say it, just because somebody is a starseed doesn't mean they pick on you just because you're a starseed. There are earth seeds that have been through this too. In fact, many of the earth seeds, I hate to say it, but this has become so normal for them that they actually end up being part of the problem. Oh, he's got new guides and everything. We brought in a Viking for him, actually. So we're hoping that the Viking will kind of give him, one, more protection, but two, more confidence. Oh yeah, we cleared him. We fully cleared him. Oh, you guys are talking about this other person. Somebody else's nephew is also going through a similar situation. Well, unfortunately, like I said, there's millions of people that are dealing with this around the world. Millions and millions of people are being harassed, and they don't even know they're being harassed. And the people that are in prison, they basically, like, people just give up on you when you're in there. I'm not talking about the soul guides. I just mean in general, you don't have your support network that you normally would have when you're in there. And it's such a negative place. Like, it's awful. It really is. Vanya says, do they push your guardian angel away as well? Yeah. Yep. Yes, they can. It doesn't happen very often because most people don't deal with severe attachments that are prolonged for many decades. But when they do, that's when you notice there's severe issues that are, homelessness, drug addiction, and psychosis. Those are the three most common things, and incarceration. But those are the most common things that help you to recognize when it's been attachments that have been going on for decades. Yep. Addiction, homelessness, because how are you supposed to be able to keep a house if you can't even remain functional as a human with so many entities attached to you? And prison, because they're always giving you horrible advice. They're giving you terrible advice. Or you end up in a mental health ward or some kind of a drug treatment facility, because that's exactly what they do. Rather than your soul guides, think about it this way, right? Like, think about your soul guide is like that little angel. You know how we see, like, in cartoons, they'll draw like a little angel that sits on your shoulder and the angel's whispering nice things to you and telling you good things. That is kind of what it's like to have a soul guide. But when you have an entity on the other side, it's kind of like those little devil beings that you'll see in the cartoons that's sitting on your shoulder telling you, oh, hey, do this naughty thing. Come on, it'll be fun. So you end up having like a battle between the little angel on your shoulder and the little devil on your shoulder, telling each other off, right? We've all seen that. That's pretty much what we're dealing with. Because you have an entity that'll be sitting on you, like sitting in your energy field, whispering horrible things into your head. And then you'll have your other soul guides who are on the other side going, hey, none of that is true. We love you. Come back to our side. And you don't even know. And then they end up getting drowned out. Like, this voice gets louder than this one. So the awful one is pushing out your soul guides. So after a while, it's like you don't even hear this side anymore. You just hear the loudmouth assholes on this side telling you that you're worthless and that you're a nobody and all these things. And then sure enough, what do we find? We find that entities are exploiting that. As soon as your soul guides push out, as soon as your guides get kicked out, that is when everything starts falling apart to the extreme. That's when all the decisions you make are starting to be really bad decisions. That's when you start being more susceptible to other people and their influence. That's when you start having circles with people who are really just not good people to be around. So Lindsay says, I'll be having a hospital birth soon. Now that I'm educated on clearing and protection, I wish MF would mess with me in there. Just bring some orgonite in there with you and you should be fine. Keep your vibration high. Make sure that you smudge yourself and take a sea salt bath or shower in there. Trader Joe's has amazing sea salt scrub. I'm just letting you know if you're interested. But just be aware, like everything, just keep your vibration high and keep on alert and you'll be fine. I'm not afraid of hospitals. I'll go into them if I have to. But if I do, I know to one, bubble up before I go in there. Two, to wear pretty much every protective crystal I own. And three, to make sure as soon as I get out of there, I cleanse myself properly with sage and sea salt and whatever else I feel like I need to cleanse my etheric field. So for those of you who work in a hospital, like I said, don't have fear going into there thinking, oh my God, the beasties are going to get me. No, you have to own your space. You have to go in there, walking in there like a badass, thinking nobody's going to mess with me. Nobody would dare. That is exactly the attitude you want. Yes. Michelle's right. Arrived with a suitcase full of orgonite and crystals. Make a little crystal grid around your hospital bed. Whatever works. Doctor walks in and you're like smudging the space. Some hospitals have actually started smudging. And I know people think like it's nuts, like smoke being able to cleanse the space. Yeah, smoke, yes, absolutely does. In fact, I've got a whole bunch of different ones that I have here. I ordered from Shaman's Market, as I told you guys that I do. You want to see what I got? So Shaman's Market is amazing. For those of you who are looking for some cleansing stuff, I've never even reached out to them to be an affiliate. I just like their stuff. Okay. So just to let you know, I don't make any money from this. So I get sage. Look at that sage spray. I have a Palo Santo spray, but it's in the other room because I was mixing it to make a different spray. Because I mix all these different ones together to make my own special scents and things. This one is like white sage and lavender. So you get different kinds of smudge sticks. I really like this one's the lavender one. So it's got the white sage, and as you can see, it's got lavender there. That's a really good one. This is a white sage and rose petal one. I got a bunch of these because we're going to France. So I figured we're going to burn these ones while we're in France, cleansing the house. Look how pretty that one is with all the different rose petals on it. See? Rose petal and white sage. Michelle says lavender repels me. That's funny, Michelle. If you don't like lavender, there's different ones. Like I said, there's rose. And then I got a black sage one. You guys want to see what black sage looks like? This is actually mugwort, also known as black sage. Mugwort is really good for cleansing the space as well. See, there's mugwort. This one's slightly more messy. You end up having little thingies that fall. But, mugwort is really good for cleansing the space as well. They call it black sage. So you don't have to use sage. A lot of people are like, the smell of sage makes me sick. Well, it makes me maybe wonder why it makes you sick in the first place. I love the smell of sage now. I used to hate it. And then I also got a bunch of Palo Santo. Look at how it comes. Isn't this a beautiful little bag? It smells so nice. Palo Santo is really good for uplifting the space. There's a whole bunch of little write-ups in there. This is all sustainably harvested, and the people that make these are paid very well. And so this is just a very, very good business to make sure that, one, it's sustainable. Two, it supports indigenous communities around the world. So that is why I really like Shaman's Market. So, in fact, they've got all kinds of posts that they share about how they're helping different groups around the world, indigenous groups, and it's lovely. Lindsay says, I like smoking lavender. Well, there you go, Lindsay. Yes, mugwort is really good. It removes the energy of death. That's why one of the reasons why it's my overkill. Like, it's if I know that some shit's going down and we're really being harassed and there's a lot of negative energy in the space, that's when I bust out the mugwort. When I have to kick it up a notch. But I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of like one of those traffic control people. I'll have two sticks going. I'll be like, My whole house gets a little smudged. Yes, these little blow torches help a lot, by the way. Look at this thing. This is a creme brulee torch, or at least that's where I got it. Swear to God, it's not for dabs, right? So if you take one of these, look at how fast this thing lights. So you don't have to sit there for 10 minutes. Look at that. Done. Very, very simple way of lighting them. I really love this blowtorch, I'm telling you. Highly recommend getting one. It really helps with the Palo Santo, especially because Palo Santo is kind of a pain in the butt. But the reason I have the spray, Jenna, is so that way when I'm in like hotels, hospitals, that sort of thing, you just spritz and nobody gives you any shit because you're not burning anything. In fact, I love the smell of this. It smells really good. It smells very fresh. It's not just sage water. This has got sage essential oil in it, and a few others. So you'll notice that if you boil sage, you do get the smell from it, but it's not as strong. And then it goes away after a while. If you weaken it a bit, after time, the smell starts to weaken. So I highly recommend the essential oils rather than just boiling your own sage. However, you can do that. Like, this is the perfect season as we're going into fall. Simmer pots are really great too. Simmer pots are, so if you take a pot of water, you can throw in some orange slices. Citrus helps to raise the vibe of the space and help chase away astral parasites. You can add cinnamon. Cinnamon is actually a sacred tree bark. Cinnamon is very good for cleansing and purging. Lots of people do cinnamon in powder form and stick form for cleansing spaces and all kinds of stuff. In fact, you even find, I bought a cinnamon scented broom the other day, like one of those witches brooms to keep by my front door, and it smells like cinnamon. I love it. So cinnamon is very good to have in there. You can also put a bundle of sage in there that you grew in your own garden or that you just bought at the grocery store. You can put that in the simmer pot. Clove is a really good one to add in there. So you add a couple sticks of clove or a couple little thingies of clove in there, and you can get creative as much as you like. But these simmer pots are great to have around in the house because that helps to kind of keep the scent up. It raises the whole vibration of the house when you have one of those simmer pots going. Add a little sea salt to it. You can get as clever and creative as you like. Your favorite herbs can go in there, whatever you like. And then after you've had that simmer pot, what you can do is just be mindful that sometimes with the cinnamon, it kind of clogs up the sprayer. But that's how I make my Christmas sprays. So I take one of my simmer pots and I just put it in spray bottles. I give it to friends. But it does. It smells like a simmer pot that you can spray in your car. So once that water has cooled, you can add them to a bottle and just use it as a spray around the house. Now it says I made spray from sage essential oil and baking soda. I used to spray pillows and beds and clothes. Brilliant idea. Genius. Especially because considering where your bedroom is, your bedroom and your bathroom area are the and your kitchen are the 3 areas where you find the most astral parasites, just for the record. So make sure that, this is why I say, make sure that you keep your bedding cleaned at least every 3 to 5 days. And if you have to take less time in between, then I would spray it with these as well, just to be sure. Because you do, especially because you're astral traveling. A lot of people astral travel and they don't know they're bringing all kinds of beasties home with them. So if you keep your vibration around your vessel high, keeping your bedroom safe, that is the most important location in your whole house to keep cleansed and clear, is your bedroom, because you spend 8 hours a day in there in your most vulnerable state, sleeping. So putting flowers by the bed, I recommend in a pot, like with some dirt, because that will help with the grounding. That dirt in the pot next to you will help to ground you while you sleep. There's all kinds of things that you can have next to your bed. I have tons of crystals. I have crystals literally. I have crystals under my bed, next to my bed, under my pillow. Like, I'm not even kidding. My bed is like a little crystal palace. You could also get organite for that sort of thing as well. But most of my organite is around my electronics. That's where I keep 90% of my organite is electronics. The rest of it I carry on my person, or I keep it in my pocket. But I always have my organite next to me while I'm chasing beasties. That's why I got my little beastie right here. Love the organite, Michelle. Did you make us some new? I'm gonna end up ordering some more from Michelle. I can make my own organite, and yet I still order from Michelle because hers are prettier than mine. I need to practice, Michelle. I'm gonna come and hang out with you in Florida so we can make organite together, and I can learn some of your amazing tricks. I have yet to sell any organite, really. I've just been giving it away, most of it. So that's why I say, like, organite is one of the best things you can gift for people. It's a little bit expensive to make, but if you can give organite to people to keep in their pocket or to have next to their bed, it's one of the nicest gifts you can give. Summer says, I smudged my kitchen so hard the other day, like I couldn't hardly see anything in the room. I opened the door and out it went. Yes, Summer. That's how you smudge. You want it to be as thick as like you can almost see your hand through it. That's how you vacate shit from your house. Just saying. Otherwise, it's very easy for them. If you're just gonna walk through the house with a smudge stick, they're just gonna look at you from the corner of the room going like this. Like, you got to get it thick to make it work. I always ask for extra protection while we sleep. I sleep with crystals under our pillows. Well done, Amanda. I sleep with crystals on the nightstand and shungite and Herkimer diamonds under my pillow. Nice one, Kath. Love that. My bedroom has my crystal altar. Sleep is so important to me. Very nice. My altar is right there. I have so many crystals on the thing. I have crystals sitting underneath it now because I don't have any room on the altar anymore. And the funny thing is I went to a crystal show yesterday to get more crystals. I'm like a crystal addict. What can I say? Anytime I hear there's crystals for sale, I'm like, crystals? Crystals? Where? One of my favorite ones that I carry around with me, I've showed you guys this many times, but this is one of my favorites. This is my rainbow obsidian that I keep with me. I keep it in my hand all the time. It fits very comfortably in the palm of my hand. So I love sitting here with this one. This is one of my favorite protection crystals. If you don't have any rainbow obsidian, I highly recommend you get some. Look at that. Isn't that cool looking? It's got green and purple and yellow in there. It's such a pretty one. It's not cheap though. This thing cost me 95 bucks. I got this in Colorado when I was at Aaron's retreat. It was worth every penny though, let me tell you. Like, you spend $95 on a crystal and you're like, are you insane? But like, yes, but you know how often I use this. Every day. Michelle says that rainbow obsidian is extra special, Laura. I can't find one with the star effect. I know. That's why they charged me so much for it. But this is why it's one of my favorites. It's very rare to find. So if you can find a star one, they actually have heart ones as well. But they do. You can find them. They're on Etsy and eBay. They're not like rare. In fact, if you go on, I'm going to guarantee right now I could find it. Star rainbow obsidian. I bet you can find one. Yeah, see, look, there's somebody's got a picture. So rainbow obsidian, depending on how you cut it, can take many different forms. Stars aren't that rare. In fact, there's even prettier ones out there. Look at this one. Look at these. See the hearts? Look at that star. That one's got like bright purple in it. So anyway, yeah, it can get, let's see. I'm just curious. Oh yeah, those are all sold out. I'm not surprised they're sold out. So yeah, just for the record, if you do see, because a lot of them look like this too. See, look how bright that one is. Hold on, let me turn down the brightness a little bit. Does that help? There you go. You see that one? No, it's still bright. Look. You see what I mean? Like, for some reason, rainbow obsidian just has like this extra special hue to it. But this is why whenever I do my bubble around myself, that's why I prefer to do a rainbow obsidian one. Very, very good for protection. If you go to a crystal show, I highly recommend looking for some. Michelle says, I have rainbow obsidian eggs. Nice. So there's all kinds of really important, there's different types of obsidian out there. In fact, there's even like glassy types where there's green obsidian. You guys ever seen green obsidian? It looks like green glass. It's really pretty. There's all kinds of different ones. So obsidian is one of the best for combating beasties. And green obsidian helps with the heart chakra. Look at that. Look at that green obsidian. Isn't that beautiful? That's obsidian as well. So when you get out to crystal shows, make sure you're having a really good, solid look around. Make sure that you're getting it from a reputable dealer, obviously. No shady dealers for anything, even your crystals. But there's all kinds of different protection crystals. Just pick one that resonates for you. And if you've got children you're trying to protect, you know what's funny? You know what the guides always say? They say, let the children choose their own protection crystals. Like, give them 20 bucks, send them into a crystal show and say, pick the ones that bring you the most excitement. Jessica says, crystals for level ones. Level ones, for those who don't know what she's talking about, are like elemental types. They're the smallest beasties that we remove. A lot of them are very small. Like, in fact, a lot of them are even animalistic too. Like, we find all kinds of strange creatures that are level ones. Technically, they're just elementals or smaller creatures that exist outside of our frequency. So, but they are everywhere. They're very numerous. In fact, they're the most common thing we find, and they're pretty much all in nature. So if you go out in nature, you find them. If you go to low vibe areas, you find them. The best crystals I would recommend are the same ones you would recommend for getting rid of the big beasties. You want the black crystals. Yep, exactly, Michelle. Black obsidian, black tourmaline. You can have rainbow obsidian and different colored tourmalines, but that's not exactly 100%. Like watermelon tourmaline isn't going to protect you as well as black tourmaline. There's a thing, right? If you were to look at different crystals under Kirlian photography, so Kirlian photography is that light photography where you can see the light spectrum that certain objects have. So if you put a selenite under Kirlian photography, the selenite glows. Like, it looks like it's under a black light, right? So a selenite gives off energy. So selenite is like the bowl I have here. For those who don't know what selenite is, this is selenite, right? I have a crystal bowl. I keep my jewelry and my knickknacks in. I recharge things in. So selenite, when you look at it under Kirlian photography, it gets very, very bright and shiny and it glows. But if you look at black crystals under Kirlian photography, they actually look like they absorb light. They are the darkest thing. Like, they don't even, like, they're pitch black. That is because they absorb energy. They absorb light. So that means it's absorbing negative energy for you. That is the whole purpose of it. Anybody ever had a black crystal break on them, like, for no reason? Even hematite often breaks on me, to the point where I stopped getting like small flimsy hematite, and now I carry these. This is hematite as well. So for those of you who don't know, hematite is like this silvery chrome looking crystal. This is really good because it has a high iron content. I actually have two of them because I put them on both sides of my computer while I'm working. I have one on this side and on this side of the computer. So this helps to kind of lock down my space while I'm chasing beasties. So the reason for these, like I said, they are there to absorb negative energy, but you can break them rather easily if you don't cleanse their energy. So make sure that you cleanse them, because if they get to the point where they've been really badly filled up, like to their brink, they will break. Have you ever had a crystal that broke for no reason? That's why, usually. Either that or it was just a very delicate cut, like if you have like the rings and that sort of thing. But usually that's what happens when a crystal breaks. That's because they've just hit their limit. It's done its job. Yep. So that's why I say make sure that you cleanse your crystals regularly. You can do that by putting it in a bowl of sea salt, because as we mentioned, sea salt absorbs the negative energy. You can put them in a bowl of selenite. Selenite will absorb that negative energy. You can rinse them under cold water, or any form of like flowing water will help. But especially if it's a black crystal, usually that's okay. The best thing to do after they break, thank you, Kat, is to return them to the earth and give thanks and gratitude. So if something broke and you're devastated about it, give thanks, give it back to Gaia and say, Gaia, thank you very much, and give it back. Finna says, moonlight. No, we don't use moonlight for anything. Moonlight is not good energy. I know it sounds completely crazy, but the moon isn't what we normally think the moon is. It's not a celestial body. So, unfortunately, the 3D matrix that has been causing us all this much grief over the last 13,000 years or so, that is in the moon. So that energy, that moonlight carries that energy, that low frequency. So cleansing in sunlight is perfectly good. You can cleanse in sunlight. Just be aware that the longer you keep things in sunlight, especially certain crystals, the more they kind of dull their color. If you were to keep an amethyst or a citrine in the sun, you're going to dim their color and make them pale. Smudging is how I cleanse my crystals, Bernie. That's what I prefer to do is I smudge them. I just light them and then I take them and I do this. Yep. Just doing that cleanses the crystal enough. I would do that at least every 3 to 5 days for your protection crystals. What does it mean if a rose crystal is cracked or chipped without being dropped? It probably means they picked up a lot of negative energy. That's what happens to crystals when they pick up too much energy. They break. I've had a crystal like literally just break itself. Like nothing touched it, nothing happened. It just broke. And for years, I was wondering, like, how is that even possible? Because it was one of these. It was like a point like these. And I would always have it sitting on a shelf. And then one day it was moved on. I mean, it maybe some entity got up there and broke it. Who knows? It's hard to tell when you can't see some of the things around us. But yeah, I would always avoid putting things out in the moon. Like when people tell them to go and recharge their crystals in the moonlight, that's the worst advice. Don't listen to that advice. Anybody who tells you to go and charge your crystals in the moonlight, they don't know what they're talking about. Is rose quartz still good to have by your router? Yep. This is the one I have by my router. I got this at a crystal show for like $15. Look at that. This is why I say make sure you go to crystal shows. This thing is awesome. So I highly recommend, yeah, you could use rose quartz. It's very powerful, you know what I mean? It's very powerful love energy that blocks bad juju too. Aaron says, I've been having the tips of my towers break off. Yeah, the one that I was on my shelf that I was telling you about that didn't fall over or anything, that's what happened. The tip broke off. Like I just looked and the tip was sitting next to it. And I'm like, what the hell? It wasn't even knocked over. And yet the tip, it was looked like the tip just broke itself off and slid off. See, that's what you can do. Also, you can put broken crystals into organite. That's a good idea. I'm the type where if I really like something, I will glue that shit back together. I think I won't. I'm like Mrs. Fix It. I will get out the Gorilla Glue and start fixing all the things that break. Any other questions before we head over to Astara? It's really nice to hang out with you guys today. Amanda says, we don't have crystal shows here. We have like 5 to 10 crystal shops tops. Well, when I come and visit you in Malta, Alma, I'll bring you some crystals. What's the meaning for tower points? It's just the way, the shape that the crystal is in dictates how that energy flows from it. So this is explained. If you guys go on Spirit Science, in fact, I'll find it for you really quick. There's a great video about crystals. It's called The Crystal Movie from Spirit Science. And let me grab that for you. This is a really great one. It explains the different shapes, the different types. It explains how organite works. If you guys have yet to watch this video, I highly recommend you do. So I just dropped the link. The YouTube video. Spirit Science is amazing. The old videos are the best because Jordan went kind of woo-woo in his later years. I think he had imposters personally. Jordan Rivers is the guy that created Spirit Science. He's an old friend of mine. I used to work for him for many years. I was one of his writers. In fact, some of my articles are still up on his Spirit Science website. So Jordan and we used to work together on writing articles and all kinds of stuff. And his original, like if you've got kids that you would like to, here, I'll send you a really cute link here. There's so many videos on Spirit Science right now and a lot of it is kind of strange. Like he's got some weird stuff up here now. This is what happens after many years of going deep down into rabbit holes. Like Jordan's been through some shit. So this is why, if you notice, he does have 3 million, like he's got 2 million subscribers on here for good reason. Where is his playlists? So here's a good playlist. Here, pause. Pausing. There we go. So I'm gonna drop the link for you guys if you would like. So just to put it into perspective, right? There is I dropped it for everybody. This is a playlist link. So if you look down into the bottom of his playlist here, hang on a second. The first one is thoughts, and he explains thoughts and how they are not existing just inside your head. He explains how thoughts come from outer areas. So if you have children and you're trying to explain to children about how thoughts manifest and where they come from and how they're not actually you all the time, that's a great one. He's got another one called Thoughts Are Things. Person, place, or thing. Get it? Like he's kind of like explaining like thoughts are not just in your head. So that is a 24-minute video. He has a video about the chakras, explaining what chakras are. He's got a video about channeling and explaining what channeling is. He's got an explanation about masculine and feminine energy, the flower of life, different dimensions, meditation. One of my favorites he did is about astral projection, of course. That is a phenomenal one. He's also got one called The Math of God. That's all about sacred geometry. He's got one about human evolution. He's got one called The Human History Movie. He's got there's way off in the Human History Movie. I'm sorry, Jordan. You definitely dropped the ball on that one. There's a lot of misinformation in that because people just kind of make up a lot of stuff, or they take information from different areas and it's a big hodgepodge. And unfortunately, a lot of the Sumerian stuff cannot be trusted. A lot of people take that Sumerian information and they kind of run with it. And unfortunately, that doesn't help because the Sumerian tablets are not accurate. They're the original Bible, basically. They were created for disinformation and confusion. So that way humans would have some sort of explanation into their history, but not the correct one. But there's a whole lot more. There's a bunch of really interesting stuff on here. Just take what resonates and leave the rest. But I highly recommend checking it out because a lot of them are really good explanations for children. So if you're trying to explain to children, like this is how you can, protect your thoughts better. This is how you recognize certain things that aren't serving you, that sort of thing. It really does help. And especially in regards to crystals, it made me, just watching that video made me the person I am today, who has thousands of crystals all over my house. So I love you guys. It's 11:11. Perfect timing to switch over. I will see you guys on Astara, or I will see you tomorrow. Lots of love. See you guys in a bit. Bye.